We are happy to speak with Mishi Choudhary today, who is the founder of Software Freedom Legal Center.in. Her organization recently did a report called Finding 404, which is a report that talks about website blocking in India. So thank you, Mishi, for joining us today. We'll get right into it then. So Mishi, the first thing I wanted to ask you is, how will the Press Information Bureau fact check content if we don't have a set definition of what is false or fake here?
Great question, but you should ask them actually the answer. I do not know how they are going to do it. I personally do believe that the idea about the fact that information needs to be taken down or blocked access to needs complete clarity so that not only the users are well aware of what is permissible and what is not, but the businesses also know exactly what are they asking anyone to do. So I think that is why there is so much of discussion about it, because these are rules, subordinate legislation, which the government can decide to do whatever they like. There are no discussions in the parliament. And judiciary takes forever to decide what's going on. And that is why people are thinking that we don't know what is fake. If idea of fake is that anything critical of the government or its agencies is fake or false, then obviously it will raise the question about that who is the arbiter of this truth? Why is a government agency deciding what you or me perhaps have no idea about? There are independent fact checkers. We've also seen the treatment of some independent fact checkers in India, and that has raised quite a lot of concerns, what happened to alt news. We are also seeing a lot of space decreasing for independent journalists. And so it is not incorrect to say that the concerns that people are raising right now are unfounded, or they're just making a lot of noise about it. IT rules, especially because so much of information is now shared online, and whether it is actual government information related to a pandemic or various other things, everything is done online. That is why what is allowed or not allowed and who gets to decide is such an important question. And that is why the government should not be the arbiter of everything. And the idea that all of us have the ability now to check information, to see independent sources, whether it is outside media, international media, or regional media, all of that is so important. That is why people are very concerned with these new additions.
I remember reading in your report that MIB had also cited disinformation or fake news as a reasoning for blocking websites under Section 69A. So how will this new power to the PIB of fact-checking work into website blocking?
So the total number of websites, URLs, apps, and social media post accounts that are blocked in India from 2015 to 2022 are 55,580. And the biggest share of website blocking is done under Section 69A of the IT Act. That is around 22,447 websites. I do not know why they are blocked, because it's not transparent. You don't know why something is blocked. We had a client a few days ago who reached out to us saying one of their websites was blocked on a particular ISP and not on others. Somebody's business website is blocked. It causes business issues because that's the presence now, how everybody reaches in digital India. We are very happy to celebrate the success of startups, the digital India. But the same story has this other side of that the government has complete power of taking you away and taking you down from the internet. There is reputational loss when a website just disappears and they have not been told why it was taken down. they have not been given an opportunity to present their case. It's all a black hole. I think that's why it's such a major problem that when you ask me the question that a lot of websites are taken down for fake or false information, I don't know whether that's true or not. I have no idea because there is no transparency around these things. And leave alone me, people whose businesses or whose own websites are taken down, they have no idea. And the issue is that we love mixing up everything. If there's a problem on Facebook, let's just talk about IT rules and website blocking. If there is a problem on WhatsApp messages being forwarded, let's just make more rules and more laws. But what we've seen is that the attempt is not actually to address the real problem. That's only an excuse, an ostensible excuse to say, oh my God, we're the government, we are very concerned about false information. But I will say that if we were all to look and check and find the source of all the false information and fake information, it will be majority of the political parties. Nobody would like to say that. It's an uncomfortable truth. And all political parties are constantly using social media to peddle a bunch of stuff. And people are just sharing or forwarding whatever they see here. And for that time, with no transparency, with government only deciding what is right, what is fake, what is false, and not letting other people into that decision-making process seems like a thing political parties would like to fight about, but it's about control of information about what we consume. And we don't seem to have a seat on the table at all. Nobody's asking us at all. And nobody is asking that whether this should be right, this is done. And I'm not saying that everybody needs to know expert stuff out here, but there are experts who will say that there are a lot of excuses which are used to take down information, but we've never seen evidence of actual impact of all of that. Is it true? When a party, political party, somebody in the opposition, somebody the ruling party, when they post something, does the government take any action? We have no idea. We do not know what actually happens here. And when the policies are top down and said, trust me, because I am the government, it makes everybody a little nervous, especially in a democratic setup. So I don't know how to answer your question. And because I don't know what will happen. I think they are saying that would happen, but I have not seen any evidence that it will be effective.
Speaking about transparency that you mentioned, PIB, what it usually does is, if it does fact check something in their sense, they do put up Twitter posts or Twitter or tweets saying that this is fake or this is false. So do you feel that that would somehow help with the transparency or complicate the process all the more?
I think Twitter also started doing some of that on its own in terms of asking the users and labeling something, that this information, perhaps you want to read this article before retweeting, perhaps you want to actually verify, or especially during the time of the pandemic, about vaccination, about important information regarding the disease itself, because it became so political around the world. Twitter itself had started to say this information is not verified. I don't know whether it is going to complicate or it is going to make things difficult, but I will say one thing. Businesses can decide whether they want to put such labels or not. But we also, as people, the government is just a representative of us. And we also need to decide, do we want these companies to actually label these things and become arbiters of truth, or we don't want? Because we are breathing hot and cold all the same time. Sometimes we're like, oh, Mr. Mark Zuckerberg should not be able to decide whether this is right or this is wrong. The next time, then we say, oh, why hasn't he actually removed these things or labeled something? So how is a business, which is not the size, for example, of a Facebook or a Twitter or a Google, how are they supposed to decide what to do and what not to do? And how is any business going to be run when so much of time, energy, resources will be spent on lawyers, will be spent on making sure that every single post that goes out on these websites, it's verified. How are they going to actually run the business? There's a lot more that goes into running the business than about compliance. And all of these things are increasing the burden only to control the narrative. And that is why, no matter how genuine the intention of the governments might be, but the way this is being done is it raises so many questions rather than answering the existing issues or addressing those problems.
Do you feel there's going to be some tussle between the Press Information Bureau and the review committee that used to look into the implementation of Section 69A? Do you see in the future some tussle between these two bodies regarding content censorship or content?
We don't know again, because everything which happens on these review committees is secret. In 13 years, they've never reversed any decision at all. That is what Right to Information of Software Freedom Law Center India, this is rsflc.in's report, which you just made a mention about on website blocking on my finding 404, tells us they've never reversed even a single order that they have passed, which is, and we don't know what they do. We don't, because they don't inform anybody. Other than the internet service provider or the telecom service provider, they don't inform anybody. The Supreme Court in the Shreya Singhal matter said, oh, you know what, if you are going to actually block website, we will allow you to do that. That is constitutional. But if your rights are being actually challenged or violated, you can assail that order and go to the High Court. The Supreme Court just forgot to say, or if you can read it, that it is implicit in the fact that how will I go to High Court if I don't even have an order? So implicitly, they were saying that you have to inform the person that somebody's website is being taken down. So that committee and PIB, whatever they're doing in secret, it just shows that slowly the internet which you sitting in India see, and the internet which if tomorrow I am going to the US or London or somewhere else, it will be a different internet. It will become the experience of what people face. When you go to China, there's a lot of stuff you can't see. And once you come out, it's a different world altogether. So India will become like that because a lot of information will stop appearing online. And we do not know which department is talking to, whether it is PIB, which did it, or how the committee interacted. You are right that when PIB fact checks, they put out tweets, etc. But are they going to always be obligated to do that whenever that happens? And if you see how the amendment is currently written, will it be about the government agencies? So we cannot say anything against the government agencies? And what does that actually mean? Or it also says, or any other agency authorized by PIB. And so that just makes us feel that, oh, now there's going to be more drama between the government and the companies. And then what will happen is there is more burden on them, so they will resist. But we also see that the companies only resist to some extent and then they fold because they have to run businesses. And what will happen is that there's no authentic fact-checking criteria that they have met. So now you can't say anything against the government. So how is it that we are now not to see it as about control of what information we consume? Information is power, we all know. There is so much that is derived from information. If we cannot see what is happening, if we are being shown something else, then obviously we are going to become a very different society. Democracy will look very different. What questions we ask will be different. What policies are made will be different because we are just seeing a curated internet. And I think when people have now been exposed to an international media, when I talk to people, whether it is the younger ones or the older ones, they're talking about what's happening in South Korea, how the Americans do certain things, how the Germans do something. Today's Indians are very well informed about what's happening around the world and how the world sees them also. They have more confidence, but they also want to know the truth. They don't want a sanitized internet curated by the government for you and not by you, but only whatever anyone sitting in the government wants you to see. They want the complete experience. And I don't think that this way of rulemaking is going to benefit anybody. Even the Biden administration has said that tech companies need to be controlled and reined in because they collect a lot of data and data monetization happens. But they are not saying that, oh, we are going to control what anyone says anything about Biden or Trump or anybody. So that kind of mature policy making is expected from somebody like the current two ministers, whether it is Ashwini Vaishnav or it is Mr. Chandrasekhar, who both have come from backgrounds, there is business experience, and India is watching the globe. So they must rise to the occasion instead of controlling to open things up so that India is also a welcoming economy for everyone.